Yo, what's going on, everyone? Sam Fabian here, Cool Meadows Motorsports. You're looking at our in-car view for the Darkwater race on the weekend of the Ultra 4 famous Reading Rumble. We broke out the plum again for the first time in 3 years and had a little fun, did some racing, raced A-Class in the Darkwater race. Definitely outgunned compared to all the V8 horsepower we were dealing with, but that wasn't the point. We wanted to get out. It was close to home, 2 hours away. Just wanted to get our feet wet again, get in the racing mood, and see what we can get done. And all in all, it was a good race day. Couldn't be happier with the way it went. And now I get to sit back, narrate a little bit, share with you guys the course. You'll see that up in the right-hand corner. And talk you through a little bit about how the plum was acting and see what it's like for Sarah and I on the in-cab of our quote-unquote race rig. So hope you guys enjoy. So, 99% sure that was Pam Hall that pulled us up to the line, so that was kind of neat. And then you're looking at JT Taylor just below the telemetry satellite feed there on the right-hand corner. He was waving the green flag. Basically, I'd have to guess that a good 80-90% of the Ultra 4 crew stuck around to help Liam host the Darkwater race. But get the green flag, and we're off. You can hear all those horsepowers. Let me tell you, 4.3 V6, 4L60E, we were definitely going to bat with the least power for a race rig in the A-Class for sure. But that wasn't the point. We wanted to get out. We wanted to compete, run the race, run our own race, not worry about anybody else, and just try and make it across the finish line. Because I definitely had a hard time just completing courses back when we raced in 2019 going to 2020 during COVID years. So, as you can see, we had a nice little straightaway coming to the little tight wood section here, and then we're going to make a right-hand turn up here. This honestly was probably one of the roughest points of the whole course, because you'll see it right now. We were cross-rutting this whole turn, and every rut we were hitting completely perpendicular. It looked like soft dirt, but I honestly could say it was probably the roughest point in the whole darn course. But Liam laid out, well, Liam, Miles, JT, they all built this course together from what I was told as we passed by the drag winch. They laid out a really cool course. The Darkwater race, obviously, they eliminated almost all the heavy rock sections. It was definitely geared more towards faster, tight trail, but fast sections, fast straightaways, tight woods racing, not really any rock, to the point where we actually came in at the end of our first lap, unlocked the front hubs, and then proceeded to run the whole rest of the race just in two-wheel drive. Just because we were dealing with some transfer case issues, and I really didn't want to push our luck. But that straightaway section right there, we ended up actually topping out third gear on lap 2 and 3. This lap we only topped out second, so it's probably the fastest section for us in the whole course. I'm pretty sure we probably hit the cusp of 70, 75 mile an hour. If anybody's interested, make sure you jump over to Paul Wolf's racing page. He's got a very similar in-car video that he put out for his 4400 race. It's just absolutely wild after I got done watching that, the night and day difference in speed especially going up that hill we just went. So we basically had the plan all day where we were going to go out, try not to honestly get run over by the rest of the A-class cars. The last thing I wanted to do was impede traffic. Just wanted to go out and run our own race, like I said before, and make it across the finish line. But I was pretty happy with our placement. We started last in the A-class, which allowed us to, I wouldn't say keep up with them, but just keep a nice gap between them and then the B-class cars. It took, I think, middle of the second lap before they finally caught us, and they were running, the B-class cars in the Darkwater race are no joke either, and we were completely underpowered to them as well. So I was proud to say that it took them a lot longer than I had anticipated to catch us. Coming off to the right-hand turn here, this nice muddy section. Plum definitely, I waterproofed it pretty well, so water doesn't affect it too much, and we can bomb a lot of the mud. Wrap out first gear, doing some hill climbs. There's a nice spectator spot up here on the right-hand side. Now, if you kept going up to the right on that hillside, you'd actually get to the entrance of Famous Reading Outdoors. So, come on down this downhill section, you come right back to what I would call a main coal road. Nice little kicker jump right here. We hit that going a little too fast on lap 2 and got some pretty decent air. But the other thing I gotta mention is when we hit this, we were completely blind to the course layout. So for the Darkwater series, which mimics the Line Mountain rules, there is no pre-running. So you hit the course, you do not know the course, and you run the course that's laid out without any kind of pre-running. Obviously, in Line Mountain, from what I've been told, it's very similar every race. So if you've raced previous races, you're going to know the course. This section right here is pretty cool. There's definitely a lot of whoops, a couple of small G outs that you can still hit at speed. And I was able to keep the throttle down and keep the front end up a little bit. Power through most of that, and it was actually pretty smooth. I was pretty happy with this is the first race we've done since 4-link in the rear and putting the coilovers and bypasses, so it was an experience getting used to how the car would handle at speed, trying to really push it through turns, feel out the body roll. We won a TK1 Racing rear mounted sway bar, which handles the car pretty well, and I can still lay into a turn pretty decent and not worry too much about flopping it over. So body rolls, it's there for being a 4-link or 4-link rear, 3-link front, but it's definitely not as bad as it could be, especially with how much triangulation I have in the rear. But you can see me reaching for my blower tube. After looking at the other cars post-race, I realized we should have zip tied those up to the roll cage and kept getting caught up behind my seat. Every time I look left and then go back to look right, my blower tube would yank on my neck and I wouldn't be able to turn my head. So as you can see, I grab it again. Sarah's job basically the whole race is just to, every time you see a sign, just shout it out. Passenger, driver, driver, passenger. Let me know where we're going. And any warning signs, G-outs, and then when our first lap, we took it a little bit slower than we would normally push it just because we wanted to learn the course and take notes, mental notes on anything that we would have to watch out for. So she did a pretty darn good job of memorizing the course, looking out for any major obstacles. Coming up here, like for example, perfect example, we're going to be coming up on a spot where it looks like they've clear cut some trees right in this muddy section. There was a lot of stumps sticking up just high enough where you could be hurting with a real good diff hanger. So it was definitely one that we were watching for in the next few laps as we went through. But the other thing I want to note is you're going to hear it at some point here, with all of the 120 horsepower we got going to the tires, if that. Of course, intermittently we started dealing with a misfire. So Not making excuses. It's just, I mean, we were going to be the slow one in the pack no matter which way you look at it. But it was just like, all right, now we're dropping a cylinder or two. It's the most inopportune moments. It just was not helping the situation. So I've yet to figure out what was causing that, because unfortunately it seems to only do it after it gets decently warm. But just another added technical difficulty. So coming up through the hillsides, start getting into a little bit of a... This was somewhat rough, not terrible, as I completely miss a turn. You'll start hearing the misfire here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's missing. It's not getting up in the RPM as quick as it should. But this spot you could really, if I was more comfortable with the car and more comfortable with its capability, hindsight's 20/20 obviously, but I could really probably have pushed it through this section. And it was a fast section that, and if it wasn't misfiring like it is, could have turned it up a little bit, made some pace, which on lap 4 we honestly really did. Like, I would have been my fastest lap by far if right on a certain hill climb it just flat out fell on his face with, it felt like it dropped 2 cylinders, but which held us up. Pull off to the right here, we had 2 modified buggies on our tail, and like I said, I was not trying to hold anybody up, so that was a B-class car actually. But in a little bit you're going to see the 2 modified buggies I was talking about. Yeah, we was just, once we heard the horn, we heard a siren or anything like that, we were pulling off. And I'm foot to the floor right now, so that tells you a lot about how the car started to run at certain points. Give it the old Italian tune-up, throw a couple free revs. Try and get it to clear out, because, you know, that always works. Look off to the right, you'll see a car buried down in that ravine. We actually came back and helped her extract that one and another one there later after the race. Mother's Recovery Off-Road Motorsports. Did a good job winching those 2 vehicles out later that day going into the night. Another section here, not really rough at all. Fast wood section that you really pick up some speed. Laps 2, 3, and 4, we were cooking through this part. This was a lot of fun. I gotta admit, this course was just, it was fast. I just really wish I had some horsepower. We really could have turned some time here. I mean, all that being said, like, the truck, even with the misfire, like, it really performed good. Like, way better than I was expecting. Coming in through a couple more tight S-turns. Somewhere up around the top of this hill here is where those modified class 2-wheel drive buggies caught up to us. This is a section where it's hard to see on camera, but it was definitely a little rough. Small, like 1 foot, 2 foot round rocks just beat on you. Like, you gotta run a higher pressure in your tires to be able to have them not go down on you, fold the sidewall over, rip the bead off. We run bead locks, but like the inner beads aren't, it's just a single side bead lock, so we run about 25 psi in our tires going through the race. And those little 1 to 2 foot round rocks, they beat on you pretty good at speed. Definitely feel it. Sure, up here at the end of this straightaway. Let's see if I can try to remember where we're at. This was a fun downhill straightaway. You see the rollers we're hitting, and Sarah laughs. We were able to cruise this around 40 mile an hour in the first lap, and then I bumped it up to about 50, 55, and those little kickers there were a lot of fun. That truck was fully airborne multiple times. Getting after a little bit, it was a good time for sure. We were enjoying that part. And then right here, you're going to notice, you know, this is what happens. You don't pre-run the course. Cut the turn a little too early. Luckily, we realized it pretty quick. All the markers disappeared. Backed out of it as best we could. But yeah, we were just about 50 yards too early on that right-hander. Dropped down in on a nice. This section was definitely tight woods. Rocky, some decent-sized boulders hidden in here. So we took it easy. Wet too, as well. If I'm not mistaken, we get into another fast, tight-knit wood section. You might hear in the background those modified buggies finally start catching us now. Looking for a spot to try and pull off and get out of their way. You know, and naturally you can hear the motor. It's chugging a little bit. It started missing on us again. After we get through this cleared section here, pull off to the side and let them just cruise on by. And it's dead miss again. Trying to get going and it just would not have it. Finally hit some loose dirt and get the RPMs up, but got a pretty good feeling if we're going to do any kind of line mountain racing or a dark water race like this again next year, things getting LS swapped. It's just beyond frustrating. Not only having the lack of power with the V6, but then when it's just not even running right like this, it's a pain. So get up to the top of the hillside here, a little more tight knit in the trees. We'll say this was the first race where Sarah and I had in-car communications. I finally took the time to put in the intercom, the race radio to talk to the pits, and also a PCI blower system in there, which was pretty sweet. And it definitely helps keep the helmets cool, helps keep you cool a lot more than I was expecting. And you don't really, it's definitely louder than I was expecting hearing the blower in the helmet, but you get used to it pretty quick, and with the intercoms right in your ears, it doesn't really affect you too much. It kind of drones out all the rattling noises that your car is making as you're flying through this stuff. But another fast downhill section, and if I'm not mistaken, we're going to come out into the open portion of famous Reading again on the opposite end of the hillside of where the spectator spot was that we passed by earlier. This was a good spot. Come down a slight side hill here, and there's a big G out at the bottom. And during the Ultra 4 race, we watched Rusty Blyler actually just annihilate this G out. He pogoed the rear end up into the air and walked at one tire all the way across this hillside here for a good 100 yards. That's the G out right there. So tough race to get to. We had some transfer case issues, like I mentioned earlier. Ended up having to put a whole new transfer case in, tear it apart, put the SYE on before we made it up there that weekend, and had to. Just took a lot of effort from myself, Sarah, some friends of mine, Tom, Como, Cord, Peter Cifelli, all swung by, helped out, trying to get my stuff together so we can make this happen. We weren't planning on racing, but thanks to a good friend Hans Shearer, kind of just called me out, to so to speak. I wouldn't say not really called me out in a bad way, but just said like, you know, you want to race, you want to race, you want to race, but then you don't do this stuff. You just get out there. This one's right in your back door. Like, it doesn't matter what you got. I know you want to be competitive, but just run the car. Who cares? So I gotta throw a big thanks to all them guys. This was a good time, and like really could not have done it without them to get out here. So that brings us to the end of our footage we had for the race. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned because we're going to have some more footage coming up from an event from Field and Forest the end of August.